Hey guys, this week in Bible is Nehemiah and the Jewish return, and our Bible verse is Ephesians 4:29. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. So this is a really great verse just to keep in mind. It's one of those verses that I have just written out as a reminder because it's telling us don't say things that are going to corrupt. Say things that are going to build up. You don't want to tear down. You want to build people up. That doesn't mean lie to people and say things that are going to be harmful to them just because you don't want to hurt their feelings. We need to tell people the truth. But just when we're talking to people, being honest and loving and kind with our words, you want that person to, it says that it may give grace to those who hear. It also says, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion. So there are times that what we have to say to people aren't going to be easy to hear. When maybe your parents are having to correct you, that's not necessarily easy for them to say or for you to hear, but they are building you up in that moment. They are helping you grow. But this verse, I like to remind myself of it when I'm tempted to say something unkind to someone or about someone. So just keep that in mind. I think this is a really important verse for us to memorize and to keep in the back of our heads in our daily lives, in our conversations with people. So that's Ephesians 4:29. Don't forget to recite it on Friday. I need to hear it by Friday. I need to know how you did. You are more than welcome to do it during our Zoom chat like Ellie did, and Isaiah. So that's totally fine with me if you want to prepare for that by then. Let's go ahead and look at our card. You can read along if you have the card printed out. So it's Nehemiah and the Jewish return. This should seem familiar to most of you because you also were taught this one in 3rd grade during history. Just because we remember that the Bible is part of history. These are historical things. But as we work our way to the Bible, we're getting to it again. So Nehemiah and the Jewish return is found in the book of Nehemiah. What? And the date is also easy to remember. It's 444 BC. So let's read. 10 years after the initial return of the exiles under Ezra, Nehemiah, one of the highest-ranking officials in the Medo-Persian court, led another expedition back to Israel. Nehemiah occupied the position of cupbearer to the king. That was a very important and very close position to the king. In all likelihood, the queen of Nehemiah 1 is Esther, to whom Nehemiah was an advisor. I always thought that was really interesting because we don't hear of Esther anywhere else in the Bible, but it's likely that she is mentioned, just not by name, in Nehemiah. And perhaps she had an impact on the king because she was Jewish and he was gracious to the Jews that wanted to go back to Israel. After hearing of the plight of the Jews who had returned to Jerusalem, Nehemiah desired to go back to his homeland. In spite of his trusted position, however, Nehemiah was very concerned about the willingness of Artaxerxes to support his intentions. So Nehemiah wanted to go back. He knew that they were having trouble back in Jerusalem. He wanted to be with his people and help. But he was afraid of what Artaxerxes would say. Even though he had a close position there, he was still afraid of asking him. Of course, that didn't stop him. Nehemiah prayed that God would give him favor with the king, and God granted his request. Not only did the king agree to allow him to return to Jerusalem, but completely financed the journey as well. So he was worried the king wouldn't even let him go. But not only did the king allow him to go after Nehemiah prayed for favor, the king also gave him anything he needed for the journey home. Nehemiah worked hard with his fellow Jews, and they rebuilt the wall around Jerusalem in only 52 days. That's less than 2 months. He got there and he was determined and wouldn't let the enemies stop him. He and the people, they built that wall in only 52 days. Isn't that amazing? God was allowing his people to come home after they were in exile. He kept his promise and brought them back. So go ahead and use the card that's in Schoology, the picture of the card, and answer the questions in your worksheet and then submit it there, okay?